everybody. Welcome to the TechRaptor podcast. I'm Robert Scarpanito, your features editor.
I'm Samuel Guglielmo, the reviews editor, and also DreadXP's managing editor.
Andrew Otten, editor-in-chief. That's not what he said before we started recording.
This is true.
But next.
It sounded better.
All right. And I'm Dan Rockwood, Squid Kid in charge of all Inkopolis content.
Oh. I'm Austin Souther. I'm just here.
All right. Yeah. He's not like we just let him in on the street.
Yeah.
You might notice the audio quality is maybe a little different than what you're used to. That's because the TechRaptor podcast is on the road. All of us are in Seattle, Washington right now. We are at PAX West, and we're recording this the Sunday night of PAX. So we've seen pretty much everything we're going to see, except for maybe a few more things on Monday if we check it out. But we've got a lot to talk about. I think we shouldn't delay. Just expect this to be kind of a roundup of some of the cool stuff we've seen at PAX and some cool things that you should probably keep an eye on. Yeah. Kind of like previews.
I just want to also say that we've had a lot of requests to remove Rutledge and Stretch. They've been heard, and it has happened.
Now, can you explain remove?
They're gone forever.
Okay.
They're never going to come back on this again.
Never?
Nope.
Hey, here's the thing. Rut and Stretch, if you're listening, DM us, tell us. Yeah. Otherwise, if we hear nothing, we're just gonna. We know that means we know something about their listening habits.
That's true. Yeah, if we don't hear a message from you, you guys aren't listening to anything.
Yeah.
And if you have been removed, please remember to pay me before you're gone.
Let's start with something pretty high profile. High on Life. That's the new Squanch game shooter done by Justin Roiland of Rick and Morty fame and his whole Squanch game studio. We got a chance to play it behind closed doors and talk to Justin Roiland about it. Austin, you were on the mouse. Thoughts?
Man, it's a hit in the making. What can I say? No pun intended.
Everybody should take a toke of High on Life.
Man, get fucking blazed on it. But yeah, High on Life, so I was originally really interested in it. Not as a Rick and Morty fan, because I don't really even watch Rick and Morty. I am a shooter
Not
fan.
Smart enough.
Well, yeah, I mean, my IQ is pretty low. But besides that, yeah, I was interested in the shooting aspects of it. Like, you don't see talking guns every day in games. And the art style and everything. So, I was fully immersed in this really cool, like, cartoonish, wacky world.
Kind of, I was just say the world itself was kind of on the quality. It almost reminded me of like Ratchet and Clank. It looked that good. I think Ratchet and Clank still has the edge over it, but it was surprisingly on par.
Right, like if Ratchet and Clank is Pixar, High on Life is like that one Apple Plus exclusive movie that came out recently.
That's like you're talking shit with that. I was trying to be positive.
No, that's a good. I think that Apple Plus movie looks really good too. It's just not quite Pixar quality.
Is this the Wolf Walkers movie? Isn't that supposed to be
really good?
Luck?
Luck?
The one about like the woman who, okay, this is now off topic. Look, High on Life looks really good.
All I was trying to say is it looks nice.
I was saying Wolf Walkers look fucking amazing. I didn't know what you were talking about.
No, I was a good.
This is now an Apple TV Plus podcast, so Severance season 1 was
I could talk about Severance for an hour.
Yeah, I could talk about Ted Lasso for an hour, but we probably shouldn't.
There we go.
Anyway,
but we should talk about High on Life.
How'd the game play, the gun mechanics?
My eyes are glazing over. Yeah, the gun mechanics are surprisingly good. It's not just like a comedy game, as you might expect from Justin, but surprisingly tight on mouse and keyboard. Apparently, I was the only one who played on mouse and keyboard that day, and it felt really good. Enemies died pretty fast. It was a pretty easy game, but it was in the beginning stages. But
demos are usually set to be easier, so they can be completed too.
Yeah, the journalists need to set to easy mode.
Because we're not real gamers.
Yeah.
No.
But what's cool is like there's an alt fire mode that like jerks off the gun or something. And
globs of slime.
When he globs, it launches enemies up into the air and you like juggle them with your shots. Mm-hmm. Also, I think it's pretty pleasurable for the gun. So
and for you.
Comments.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing, too, is if you've not heard anything about the game, this is the one where basically Morty talks to you the entire...
one gun is basically Morty's voice, but there's
Yeah.
other people, like JB Smoove, he is, like, from Leon from Curb Your Enthusiasm. He does a gun. We didn't hear him. I can't fucking wait to hear what nonsense he says now.
Oh, yeah. So it's like your gun will talk to you / at you while you shoot up enemies. And, like, they kind of act as, like Royland said, companions, kind of like Dragon Age companions, but also they act as, like the tutorial things, or like we need to get over there. The gun will tell you, like, here's your objective, but with some fun flavor text to it, because it can't just be a boring, straightforward thing, right?
Mm-hmm. Of course, there's also the knife that talks and is like the personification of an Australian man. Just wants to kill everything.
Yeah, the knife was particularly very violent. Like the Morty gun was like, he almost didn't want to shoot some things, whereas a knife just wants to fucking shred everything. Yeah,
and there were like little things too. Like the lead dev mentioned that. So there was that one spot where Austin approached a door, and like there were enemies talking behind the door, and you have to get in there to get the knife, but Austin, you just waited, and you heard them out, and then eventually the gun talks to you. Kenny's the name of the gun. It's like, oh, hold on, what if we try to like trick them and use negotiating? So like there was a whole other way to approach that story beat as opposed to just like bust down the door and shoot up,
Yeah, and I could be wrong, but I may have also been like one of the only people that waited, because most people just barge in. So like, I kind of compared it to Wolfenstein, the newer ones where you can listen to the enemies talk and like get some background information, which can be pretty funny sometimes.
Right.
And I thought that was really cool. There's also like dialogue choices in some instances that led to some pretty funny moments.
Oh yeah, it was. And I mean, it's just you sitting at the door. I'm surprised more people didn't, because waiting for the dialogue was pretty fun. It was good.
Yeah. Like, it really earns its humorous moments.
Yeah.
You might think, like, oh, it's a shooter, I don't want to sit around and wait for people to talk to me, but it's pretty good dialogue,
I'd say so. And when it's one general comment, it was when we interviewed Royland for almost 30 minutes after.
Yeah.
And what struck us all the most was just how it would been easy for everybody to assume, like, oh, this is the Rick and Morty guy's making a game, and he's just, I'll write some jokes and I'll do voiceover, but I don't really care about everything else. Mm-hmm. But he showed a lot of care in the game, and a lot of, like, when we asked questions, he was giving us very in detail depth, like a lot of depth in these answers.
Yeah. That
he obviously knows what he's talking about when it comes to game design and in particular choices, and a lot of thought went into stuff. Mm-hmm. So like most of the stuff that we say, oh, Dev said this or this, it was probably Justin was probably the one that said it, and he considered it.
Yeah.
So we'll have a feature up on what we learned from him also, but that was very cool, just how way into it he was.
Mm-hmm. Like, he would describe moments as, like, he wanted to get that Nintendo quality of, like, maybe it's a little tough, but you want to get back in there, and it's not punishingly difficult,
Yep.
Yeah.
And he mentioned that game Fist, I think it was, which is like a really, I wouldn't say obscure, but a relatively new...
Mainstream is pretty obscure.
Yeah. Not a lot of people know about it. It's a Metroidvania that came out not that long ago.
That's the one with the rabbit with the giant fist on its back, right?
Yeah, you would know about that, wouldn't you?
Wow. You're calling me out before we even get to Friends vs. Friends.
You're right. Well,
that's the name of this podcast now.
Friends vs. Friends. Well, let's talk about Friends vs. Friends, actually.
Yeah.
That's a good little
sure.
segue
I got to the Raw Fury booth, which I'm now calling Raw Furry because I played 2 games there. The other of which was Tales: The Backbone prequel, which is good, but not. It's really good, I promise. But more importantly, I played Friends vs. Friends, which is about a bunch of animal people getting cards and shooting each other. And I lost because I played against a professional Overwatch player, which was not a great idea.
And you're not a professional Overwatch player?
It turns out I am not a professional Overwatch player, I'm just saying.
Wow. Do you even game?
No.
I knew it.
But the game it's a 1v1 or 2v2 first-person shooter where everyone has a deck of cards. And the cards are like... They're different guns, like you can get an AK-47 or a shotgun. They can do things like make the opponent's head bigger so you get easier headshots, or make your own head smaller. There's like basic ones, like go faster, but there's also ones like one that just nukes the entire world and it just changes the map from... The map we were on was like the top of an apartment building, But if you use the nuke, it became like a crater in the ground.
Huh.
And then if you got a second nuke and the other person used a nuke, you all go to space because you blew up the planet. And instead you have like a low gravity fight in space, which actually has like moon physics, which is really funny.
That's kind of cool.
But it was cool. There's a bunch of characters, and each of them have like different, passives. Like one of them always starts with an Uzi instead of a regular gun. Another has more health, and you all get these fun cards. And after, it's a best 3 out of 5, and after every round, you get 3 new cards in your deck. So you can pick which cards you want, and you'll slowly get them, and get cool combinations. I didn't get to mess around much with the deck building stuff. But they let us try a couple different characters, and we got a bunch of different cards. So, I had a really good time with that one.
Yeah.
I tried it out as well, and I think, Sam sums it up pretty nicely. But another thing that was interesting, I talked to the developer, and I kind of wanted to know, what's the monetization like? It's a multiplayer shooter, after all. And I'm pretty sure the Battle Pass is free, and the first season, there's going to be like a toxic sludge theme. You get new cards for your deck that I guess use poison and stuff, which is kind of cool. Like, there's going to be multiple themes, I guess, as the seasons go on. And then there'd be like skins that don't affect gameplay that you can buy, which I think is pretty nice. And he really emphasized that it's a game that he wanted to ethically, I guess, have extra charges for on top of buying it, skins but no gameplay advantages, stuff like that, which it seems like he really got a good idea about who to market it for.
Also, I don't know if you noticed, Andrew, but Austin, you're Austin, not Andrew.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Am I?
Austin, the title music was a fucking bop.
I actually didn't have the headphones in because he wanted to play without them, so.
Okay.
Yeah, we were talking all the while.
I played with the headphones on the second time, because the first time the guy accidentally tripped and unplugged the headphones, which was really funny. And Raw Fury devs, I love you guys. Watch out for those wires. But the music in that game is a bop. They have actual, they're recording actual songs that are really good. Which, if you watch the trailer, it also is a bop jam to go with it. So it's like the new Bugsnax.
Right, nice.
I just love that they're recording actual songs.
Yeah, they're recording actual songs as opposed to fake
What
music.
else?
In Final Fantasy VII, they didn't record anything.
Yeah, they didn't.
Just kind of found
that's-
noises in the wild and put it in.
Right.
That's how I compose music.
Right.
I don't compose music.
The real important question is, Austin, did you win your match of Friends versus Friends?
Yeah, well, he beat me, I think, the first one, but then in the rematch, I upped my A game a bit, played my cards right, and beat the dev. So that was pretty fulfilling, actually.
So you're better than Sam.
All right. Well.
Oh, I mean, that was never a question.
Wow. Wow. I'm getting the professional Overwatch player to play you now. This is happening. It's going down.
All right. It's going down. That's not the only multiplayer game that we've all seen. Well, not all of us, but I believe Austin and Dan, you guys saw Splatoon 3, which comes out later this week for all of you fans.
Pretty soon.
Fans of Inkopolis.
Really?
Yeah, for all 2 fans plus Dan.
Right.
Wow, man.
Two fan Dan.
You're going to bring this on in the podcast. I have to deal with this in my personal life, and now it's out there in the world. We demoed Splatoon 3. We got a nice, a solid 90 minutes with the game, which was the longest I spent with any one game this weekend, and it was very enjoyable. So for anyone who played last week, they had the Splatfest World Premiere demo. I played some of that. I was actually had some reservations about the game based on the mechanics of that. However, this demo put me kind of at ease as a Splatoon fan. We checked out some of the single-player stuff, some of the salmon run modes, and then played some Turf War multiplayer as well. I had a blast, but I've been a fan since day one, so that is, I'm the target demographic. Austin, I'm curious to hear, what you thought of it coming in as not as quite into the Splatoon lore as I've been.
As neither a squid nor kid.
Well, first things first, I'm surprised you mentioned or didn't mention the fact that we got our ass kicked and didn't win a single multiplayer match.
Okay.
Were you guys
Overwatch
Overwatch players too?
That's true. Hey, we lost, and then one of the Nintendo Treehouse guys joined our team, and he helped us turn the tide of battle.
Like having freaking Shigeru Miyamoto show you how to platform in Mario.
Yeah.
I don't know, something tells me I love Miyamoto, but he's probably not the best Mario player.
You don't know him like I do.
He's probably fine.
It's true.
I mean,
Well, what about Reggie? You guys know Reggie.
Did you see Reggie play Smash?
I did. He won, right? Yeah.
No. No, he didn't.
I know. I'm aware. But tell us about Splatoon.
Well, yeah, I had motion controls, which wasn't really my thing because I'm more of a boomer shooter kind of guy, and that was kind of difficult to grasp at first, but then I got the hang of it. And it was actually pretty cool. I don't think I really care much for the single player, only because it seemed kind of like puzzle-oriented almost.
Yeah, so the single player has always been the weakest part of Splatoon. I've beaten the campaign on both 1 and 2, and I will do so on 3, maybe begrudgingly, because I know it's the weakest. However, in the previous games, you could find these sunken sea scrolls, which would unlock new weapons in multiplayer, which is why single player was always worth going through. I did ask about that in Splatoon 3, and I was told that they will have sunken sea scrolls, but they're not going to be acquired in the same manner. So it's sounding like instead of hunting the single player levels for these hidden collectibles, it's going to be more focused on gameplay and clearing the levels quickly and effectively. So I am curious to see how that shakes out in the final release.
Yeah, I mean, WoW campaign wasn't really my thing. I had a lot of fun in multiplayer, even though, like I said, we lost a lot. I had the paint roller, and it's like, power washing. You basically just do a nice little neat line with your paint and cover the map and maybe splat a squid kid or two on the way.
Did either of you try the Splatana? Is that what they're calling it?
It is the Splatana, or the Splatana, but I think Splatana sounds better. I didn't try it in this demo, but I did use it a couple times in the Splatfest premiere last weekend, and it's a good weapon if you're focusing on targeting other players and wanting to splat them. But as far as covering the map in ink, I find it to not be as effective as some of the other weapons.
Fair.
The bow and arrow that they added was pretty cool, though. I think that's new, right?
Yeah, the tri-stringer is new, and that is one of the benefits of the single-player mode, is that does give you a tutorial on how to use that weapon properly. So, normally when you're firing it shoots horizontal 3 arrows that you can charge. When you jump, though, it moves to vertical arrows, so you can kind of decide how you want to fire. Based on that. So that was cool. I was switching up my weapons between every mode, which was funny because I selected one weapon and one of the guys from Nintendo came over and he was like, that one really uses up a lot of ink, so you might want to switch out your gear to compensate for that. And I was like, thank you for taking this game as seriously as I do, because most people just don't care. But I mean, they are Nintendo, so it makes sense.
It's their job to.
Yeah, they're kind of into the game.
As a person who has not played any of the Splatoons, Dan, is there any reason Splatoon 2 was not called Splatooey?
No, it was or just Splatoon with the number 2, Splatoon. There were some really missed opportunities there. I like Splatooey though. That would have been great. But yeah, no reason. And since you haven't played any of them, I want you to go buy a Wii U at your earliest convenience.
Wii U's aren't real.
Okay.
They're not.
Yeah, I've never seen a Wii U in the real world.
Yeah,
I'm
or
not convinced.
I have one, but I think it may have been just a schizophrenic episode.
Well, also, Dan, can I ask, because you wrote an op-ed a few weeks ago that you can check out at TechRaptor.net about, plugs, about how this, Splatoon 3 could have maybe just been Splatoon 2 expansion pack.
Yes,
possibly.
that is something I'll say. And I mean, I'll have the definitive final opinion on that when the full game launches, because I think the single player does expand the lore a bit, so I think the Splatoon 3 single player is going to probably be really good in that sense. But there aren't major upgrades in the multiplayer aspect. There are some weapons that could have been DLC, so it feels more like a Splatoon 2.5 and not really Splatoon 3.
Right. Now, I'd like to open the floor to Andrew Otten.
The idea of being really into Splatoon lore.
This is a beloved Nintendo
just
property.
Very funny to me that there's this lore to Splatoon and like.
I mean, I would argue Splatoon is A tier Nintendo franchise.
Oh my!
So it's just below like Zelda and Mario in my mind.
So those are the S tier.
Yes.
It can't get worse than F-Zero.
Wow, wait, so fuck Pikachu, is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying Splatoon and Pokemon would probably be like on par for me.
So they're both shit.
Well,
and then I would, and I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, I would put like Fire Emblem below. Splatoon over Fire Emblem.
Listen, I actually agree with.
So, I mean, I'm not here to debate the ranking of Nintendo franchises. No, if you ever want to go down a really weird rabbit hole, look up like the Splatoon story and the world.
No.
It is a post-apocalyptic universe.
Oh, actually,
there was a great war that took place between the Octarians and the Inklings, and the Octarians were basically shunned as second-tier citizens beneath the streets of Inkopolis. It gets strange.
Wait,
so
there's racism in my Splatoon?
Yes, there is.
I think Donkey Kong lore is better than that.
That feels very like where the world is heading now. You say Octarians, isn't that like 80-year-olds?
Isn't it octogenarians?
I believe, yes.
Sure, I know, but like it feels very close.
Well, when humans live long enough, they do eventually become octopi, so it's heavily based on that. Yeah, it's just a logical conclusion that you bring. But yeah, I mean, there's, just go to like the Splatoon wiki site and just read through everything, and you're gonna probably be very upset.
What if
very
I
mad.
pay you to write an article about that instead?
I mean, oh man. All
Splatoon
right.
lore explained.
Let me think on that. Yeah, Splatoon explained.
That's the SEO one, but can the headline please be Splatoon's fucked up? That's it.
That fits more for the Kirby lore.
Yeah.
Kirby lore is
Kirby
way
was fucked
cursed.
up.
Kirby lore makes Lovecraft look tame.
Kirby's wild.
Yeah, I want headlines, Splatoon's fucked up, and then I want to heavily like do a campaign with Nintendo to get them to like tweet out that article.
Well, we probably can't say fucked. We'll use the Xenoblade snuffed.
Yeah,
it's snuffed up.
Okay.
Or does like Splatoon have like a stand-in, or is it just gibberish squid language?
It is just gibberish language, and it's I mean they're sea-based creatures, so it's a very maybe if they're underwater, it could be like mer people in Harry Potter, like underwater it's language. Above ground, it's just screeching.
That makes sense. You have to read that article underwater.
Correct.
Bring your phone into the bathtub. Let's talk about something that probably also has deep lore. Lies of P, that new game that's totally not Bloodborne.
Life of Pi.
Life of Pi. Yeah.
Lies of P.
Lies of P. It's totally not Bloodborne. I think 3 of us at this table have played it. We also have a preview up on the site right now if you'd like to check that out. It's Bloodborne.
Like almost basically identically to it.
Yeah.
All right. As someone who hasn't played it, what's the lie?
Don't know. I mean, Pinocchio
is a real
nose
boy?
grows bigger. Yeah. What's ironic about it is he seems to be the only real boy in a world full of wood people.
Automatons. Yeah.
He's the only one that's not wood.
Yeah. But the gameplay feels so very much like Bloodborne. The combat tempo is very like heavy.
Even just the systems around it, right? Like almost identical. Like even to the here's some esoteric stuff written for a description on it.
Yeah. Every description is just like mysterious and lore heavy, and you could probably read all the descriptions and put together the full story of this game or whatever. But
Geppetto's Hitler.
Yes.
Is Jiminy Cricket in it?
Maybe
he got eaten.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question about this game because Robert, you wrote up the preview, and
I did.
Your headline, I believe, was "Lies of P is Bloodborne with strings attached."
Yes.
So what are the strings? What attached strings are we dealing with?
They're called Sekiro a little, because your left arm is mechanical, so you swap it out for other things, which then act like. What did they call them in Bloodborne? Like the guns that you would use? They had a name for that, like category. Yeah, because they would all act differently. Like one was a grappling hook that you can use that creates like a really flashy attack, or a continuous flamethrower, flame spewing thing. And the other difference, which I'm pretty sure isn't in Bloodborne, as far as I remember, is if you hit enemies enough times, especially with like a special attack, you put them in a groggy state, or you put them in a white, like their health bar flashes
like a stagger
white.
kind of thing.
Yeah, and then you hit them and it makes them groggy, and then you can do a fatal hit, which I guess is just like a critical hit in almost every Souls game. But you can manufacture it to happen and force it to happen.
The critical hit's also still there.
Yeah, it is.
It's in the same way.
Right. So overall, it is going to be very familiar if you are a fan of all the Souls-like games. If you played a fuck ton of Elden Ring this year like I did, this is just something I'm probably to look forward to.
What if you've played the only good Souls game, Lord of the Fallen?
Well, you have a game coming in 2023.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. They did announce
the Lord of the Fallen.
Shit. I forgot about that. Yeah. Why? Yeah.
I just hope that like Pinocchio's nose gets progressively bigger throughout the game, and like I don't know.
I would hope so, but I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
It'd just be funny.
I just want to also point out that we played that on a computer, a PC.
Yes.
Which means Bloodborne is coming to PC.
Bloodborne finally coming
Bloodborne
to PC.
coming to the PC.
Yes.
Yep.
That could be the title of this podcast.
We don't lie.
That was the title of last week's podcast.
Yeah, but it could be the title of this week's podcast too.
Bloodborne is coming to PC again.
Again.
Well,
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It's Bloodborne Part 1 remastered.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the Bloodborne prequel, actually.
Mm-hmm.
The hunters were actually Pinocchio.
Oh my god.
But yeah, I am pleasantly surprised with how much it nails that feeling. Because I feel like a lot of games that aspire to be Souls-like just feel a little off in different
that
ways.
one gave
but
me
that one-
heavy vibes of it. Like,
Yes.
pretty close.
Yeah, I think Brown Date Studios really nailed it. So, very excited for that.
Robert, I would like to take a break from video games.
Okay, what would you like to talk about?
Let's talk about
Anime?
TV shows. Yeah.
Let's talk about anime.
Anime. All right, you know what? I'm gonna take the reins here because you got some shit takes.
Wow.
Oh, this is a new side of us.
Wow. Are you reading my all anime is trash shirt that I am totally wearing?
It's funny you mentioned that.
Because they are selling that shirt at
Yeah, they bought me that shirt.
Almost bought
I
it.
almost wore it.
that shirt for Austin.
Yeah, we bought a anime was a mistake shirt for Austin.
Yes, I saw that shirt. I really want to buy it. I might go and do that after this.
Yeah.
All right, well, here's the thing. So we got to see Cyberpunk Edgerunner, which is the new Netflix show adapted by Studio Trigger. It's in the Cyberpunk universe. We saw the first 2 episodes. And I was really impressed, actually, because I went into it, expecting, they're bound to this deal with CD Projekt to make a show based on their game, and we hadn't heard a lot about it, but seeing the quality of the animation, staying consistent throughout, and then how they stayed true to the source material was actually really cool. A lot of Easter eggs, like a lot of songs from the game themselves.
A lot of T-posing and...
No, actually, this show is more polished than the game. You'll be happy to know.
That's good.
That's the headline.
It's true, and honestly, I really want to see more. It leaves you on a pretty good cliffhanger, and because I'm a weeb, I got chills in the last scene. It was a really beautiful moment to me because they played my favorite song from the game, and just the way that Trigger animated it and the framing of the shots and everything, I think was actually really nice. You agree with that at least, right?
Andrew?
Talking to Sam. Sam's
It's one of you.
All right. My stance on the show is that I'm not really an anime fan, but it was a way to get off my feet on the show floor for like an hour and a half. I actually thought the show was okay. I just really am not an anime fan. It was kind of tough to follow sometimes. There's some really good parts. There's one part where they're on the moon. Well, they're in a VR thing on the moon. Yeah. I thought that was great.
That was the
fantastic.
part that gave me chills because it was so cool.
I don't understand why the theme song is a Franz Ferdinand song. It doesn't fit with the show in the slightest.
What song?
Fire. I actually really like the band, but it doesn't fit with the show in the slightest.
I thought it was good.
My biggest takeaway is everyone likes to always say anime is nothing but sex and violence. And this show is like, hell yeah, anime is nothing but sex and violence. And it is a lot of sex and a lot of violence.
You're talking about everyone very generally.
I don't know
I
about
think
that.
everyone says that.
Who the fuck says anime is... who looks at Dragon Ball like, that's just sex and violence?
You're not seeing sex when Goku's fucking up.
Excuse me, wait a second. Are you not seeing
That's
sex
what I'm
when
saying.
Piccolo's on the screen?
That's
You're
what
looking
I
at
asked my
Spy
parents what's
Family
happening
saying
when I
there's
was a
like
kid.
a bunch of Come on, man.
The fuck is Spy Family?
It's like the hottest anime out right now.
I don't watch anime.
Exactly. That's why
I'm wearing my I don't watch anime shirt.
Yeah. I guess.
Now you got to take that shirt off because you did.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I did watch an anime. Only once. Only once, and because it was somewhere to sit for an hour and a half. No, the show is okay. I might watch more just because the cliffhanger bugs me, and I don't like cliffhangers. So they might have forced me to watch the show at gunpoint.
Well, when does it hit Netflix again? Isn't it September 4th?
I believe it's the 13th. Yeah,
it's sometime in September.
So I don't watch anime either. Really, I've watched some. There's very few that I like. Most I abhor. Don't like. I hate.
So you're not a fan of Ninja Goku or Pirate Goku?
Oh yeah. Ninja Goku is which one again?
The one that's a ninja.
Oh, that's the one that the show, the Naruto show. That's Ninja
he does
Goku.
the funny hand signals.
Yeah, and then Luffy is Pirate Goku.
Luffy.
My understanding of anime is every anime has a Goku.
Yeah.
And that Goku is. Yeah, anyway, he's always...
And he does the Kameyamama.
The Kameyamama.
The Kameyamama.
Yeah. Anyway, the Goku in the Cyberpunk, I like this Goku.
Goku.
The Cyberpunk Goku is pretty good.
Oh, Aladdin.
He's kind of
like Aladdin.
It's not Aladdin.
He grows up on the streets. He gets magic
All
powers. He becomes rich.
It's not Aladdin.
Kid's really down on his luck.
Anyway, he's very he's really likable. I think the kid is. I think one part they're very heavy-handed with guilting you into liking the mom a lot. Like in one scene, she said, I do all this stuff for you, and just hang after thing after thing after thing that would have been nice to organically come out in the story, but they're trying to hit you with it early. But
there was one scene, 5 minutes into the first episode, where he's just walking from point A to point B, and the entire thing is and this costs that much, and you need life insurance at that much.
They were pretty heavy-handed.
And it's all right, guys, I know subtext is for cowards, but come on.
No, I think that part is why it's pretty good, because those themes are always prevalent in Cyberpunk 2077.
Yeah, I don't think the argument is that the theme is wrong. It's that they're beating you over the head over it.
It's not subtle.
It could be
this awful world where you get charged in nickel and dime for literally everything. The health guy's oh, sorry, you didn't pay for the good package. You're fucked.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like the game was similar to that. Wasn't there a really early mission about healthcare? And, yeah. So
and the trauma team? If you have to subscribe to it. It's for the most exclusive people.
Yeah, trauma team.
But I mean, they were. I mean, if we're gonna be fair to them, they got 20-minute episodes. They got 10 episodes, I think, run
probably
or something like that.
25 minutes each. That's usually
20-something minutes.
And
they had a few minutes to establish this is the world to everybody real quickly, and I think they did effectively do that.
Yeah, it could have been a lot worse.
Yeah,
it's not as good as my favorite anime, Avatar: The Last Airbender, but it's
yeah. No, the blue people were really cool.
But the Edgerunners,
exactly. I love that episode. Put them in.
It's a beautiful show that I think is. I think it's got a good setup for something interesting. Okay. I think if it's another thing that's a little interesting about it, the main character is kind of stuck between what I would call the two most prevalent worlds of Cyberpunk, which is the street kid world where you've grown up on the streets and the corpo world. And he's kind of stuck between two in a way. He's definitely more street kid, and he wants to be street kid, but he doesn't really fit into both. And he's pretty naive, I think, but thinks he's all street, but he's not. Stuff happens anyway.
I think the one funny thing was, for all the hitting us over the head they managed to make you understand the main character is Spanish without having him say a Spanish word in an English sentence.
That's true. It was pretty...
Yeah, they managed that. Congratulations. Because I remember, that was the weird thing with Cyberpunk. There was the one, I don't remember the guy's name.
Jackie.
Yeah, Jackie. He was Spanish, and they couldn't figure out a way to establish he was Spanish other than having him say, essay every other word.
Yeah.
I mean... Not to stereotype, but there's definitely that's not unusual for some people.
Yeah,
there is one two other thoughts that I had, and one is I think the cinematography aspect of it, which yes does exist in anime, frame the shots in a way that you don't usually see. They're kind of more realistic shots rather than over the top, and the opening scene. is very action heavy, and it's Trigger at its best, man.
Nice.
So if you're a fan of
super
Trigger,
anime, it was super anime.
it was very cool though. Like Trigger is a really good choice for this anime.
Hell yeah. While we're talking about anime, and since you've butchered Luffy's name, the Pirate Goku,
Monkey D. Luffy.
I want to at least talk a little bit
Goku.
about One Piece Odyssey because I know no one else here has, and I just feel like it's a good time.
He kept trying to trick me into play it.
Yeah,
I'm not falling for
because
it.
it's actually very good. Okay, so One Piece Odyssey is that Dragon Quest One Piece game, basically, and it genuinely feels like they built the gameplay first, and then it's like, oh yeah, it's pirates. Like it's because there's a lot of anime games that tend to be a little bit surface level, basic, whatever. But One Piece Odyssey really nails that like there's some pretty deep mechanics to it, and like if you get surrounded by enemies, like it becomes a moment in the gameplay where like if you have to fight two groups of enemies at once, or like if your party gets separated, one person's out there like surrounded, the other three need to fight through enemies to get through and like save the other person. And all of that's done in a way that turns a turn-based combat on its head, which is really fascinating. And like you don't see it that much in turn-based games, especially one that feels so faithfully Dragon Quest-y. So I'm stepping out right now and just saying I endorse One Piece Odyssey. I think it's one to keep an eye out for if you're an anime fan.
I don't know. Luffy's like he gets big and small, right? He's like Ant-Man.
He's rubber.
Oh, he's rubber.
He's the rubber one.
Okay.
He's Pirate Goku plus Mr. Fantastic.
Okay.
Yes, yeah.
Pirate Goku plus Mr. Fantastic.
Yeah, there's one bad guy in One Piece who's like a god because he can electrify anyone, like call lightning, and Luffy's just like, cool, I'm rubber. And he kicks the shit out of the guy.
That's very funny.
It is very funny.
I know exactly one thing about One Piece, and it's because one of my friends has been posting a million GIFs of that little
Chopper?
the
little reindeer.
The little reindeer
thing.
guy. Why? Why?
Yeah.
Why Chopper?
Listen, hey, EA Mono, if you're watching this, why?
Yeah, why are you watching this? We're not even
also,
doing
why
video.
are you watching this video?
Yeah.
If you're listening to this, why?
Yeah.
Okay, that's the extent of my One Piece knowledge.
Mm-hmm. And I think for One Piece fans, there's a lot of fan service in it in a nice way. Like all of your your mana special attacks, all your spells are all based on One Piece moves. Like Usopp's Rubber Band of Doom, killer animation for that, fantastic. So,
wait, is Luffy the Believe It guy?
No, that's Ninja Goku.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't have a clue. I really don't have a clue.
See, just think of them in terms of Gokus. Gokus
right.
and Bulmas. Gokus and then every Goku has a Bulma.
Okay, who's Luffy's Bulma? Can you explain this one to
But
me?
Bulma, but I gotta clarify.
Zoro.
Goku is not married to Bulma. Bulma's just the more prominent female character.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah. So I guess that would be Nami in One Piece.
What about Zoro? Because they're like homies.
Well, Zoro's the Vegeta. Zoro is Sword Vegeta.
Yeah,
Sort of
there we go.
Okay.
I thought that was Trunks.
No, that's Sword. I don't know.
In Naruto is what's his name? Kakashi?
Well, Sasuke is the
Sasuke.
Vegeta. He's Ninja Vegeta.
Yeah. Okay, I see the trend
See?
here.
Uh-huh.
Everything is in terms of Dragon Ball.
Wait, which one's Piccolo?
Ooh.
Piccolo is teacher. So he would be Kakashi, wouldn't he? Yeah, he would be Ninja Piccolo.
What are we talking about?
What is happening? Okay, never mind. I regret it. Let's go back to video games.
Yeah, let's derail this weird conversation with another one. Let's talk about some Devolver games. Angerfoot, a game where you have an angry foot and you kick things.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you something funny about Angerfoot. I fed what I assume is my girlfriend. I picked up a piece of popcorn out of a popcorn bowl with my foot.
In the game.
Yeah.
Okay, that was my
We have to be sure with that.
I was sitting at home, and then I saw the Angerfoot trailer.
And I fed her popcorn
Okay.
with my foot.
Sure.
Okay.
And yeah, that was pretty funny.
You ever see the old Chris Farley SNL skits where he's got like Paul McCartney? He's like, "Hey, you remember like Yellow Submarine?" He's like, "Yeah, that's pretty good."
All I'll ask the uncomfortable question for the group. Will this appeal to like foot fetishists? Do you think as like as like their holy grail of like this is a game for us?
Well, I'm not a foot fetishist, but I would assume yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wink, wink. But yeah, from a gameplay standpoint,
I'm able to find my shoes. By the way,
one last sniff.
This is the worst. I hate everything about this.
I like this.
From a gameplay standpoint, it's like first-person Hotline Miami, one hit, one kill. You get shot or hit with a pipe, you're dead, and same goes for the enemies. And the main thing is that you use your feet to kill them. Sometimes you can pick up guns and shoot them.
With your feet?
No. That's not possible.
So no Bayonetta shoes with like guns on the stilettos.
That we saw.
We should change. We need to go back and talk to the developers.
There might be in there.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just fun, fast paced. It's stupid fun. Knows what it is, and that's all there is to it. Like,
just kick down doors and shoot them.
Yeah.
That's basically it is just right. It's a first person Hotline Miami-esque thing. It's really the easiest way to describe it, with a really quirky, weird sense of humor with this foot guy.
Would you find it's like much more of like an action based game as opposed to like strategy or?
You can take a strategic approach after dying a bit. Like you see where enemies are going to be. It's not like randomized or anything, and you can kind of tune it. But it's still very much an action.
I guess I would think the two combinations I would put is Super Hot plus Hotline Miami.
Yeah.
Super Hotline Miami.
And feet.
Yeah. I mean, you're not slow. You're not like slowing time down or anything. But that same like way Super Hot works.
Yeah.
Right.
Feels similar.
Right. Like every little movement matters.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What about Gunbrella? What do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, what a title, Gunbrella. It says everything you need to know, really. You have a gun, and it's an umbrella as well. What's really cool about it is that the umbrella allows you to move around the stage really cool. Like, you can shoot up and over obstacles. You can deflect, like, bullets and stuff from enemies. This is a 2D, like, side-scrolling type. I wouldn't say it's a Metroidvania, but like it's kind of got those vibes to it.
Yeah, it's not. There's not as much of like a labyrinth with backtracking like a Metroidvania would, but it does have like it's a very retro-inspired game with like pixelated art style. But the movement with the umbrella, like you said, is really cool because you can activate it pretty much any time, and you can go shooting in any direction with a thruster boost, which was really cool. And you have different ammo for the gun too, so you could lob grenades, you could shoot bullets. And I died a number of times before I gave up in the demo. Were you able to get all the way to the boss of what we saw?
I died once, and that's when I backtracked a bit, and unfortunately, due to the way conventions are, you kind of have only so much time, but I got a good chunk of it in. Didn't make it to the boss, but I'd definitely like to see it. But yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Nice.
I beat the boss. I didn't play the game, but I beat the boss.
Why are you here?
Pro gamer. Let's see. We also saw Planet of Lana. I think Dan and Otten both saw it, right?
I think Otten played it had more of an opportunity than I did, but I did sit down and play a bit of it. The big thing that struck me from this game, it's a very like watercolor type art style. And you're playing as this character kind of exploring this planet. I think that the subtitle of the game is literally an Off-Earth Odyssey. And it has puzzle-solving elements. I did not encounter any enemies when I played, so I don't know if there are none in the game. Okay, so Otten knows more about that. But what I found was it was just like a very relaxing kind of go at your own pace. You have this companion character who is very cat-like, but I don't believe is a cat.
It's like a shadow cat thing. I think its name is Mooey. Could be wrong.
Mooey the kind of cat.
I think it's Mooey.
Yeah. So for me, I'm pretty excited for this because it's if you want just like a relaxing game or at least parts of it relaxing with like a chill soundtrack and these really like pretty like watercolor like vistas in the background as you explore this side-scrolling adventure. It's a good opportunity.
It's a gorgeous game.
Nice.
Gorgeous game, super chill.
Yeah.
Even when enemies come in, they're like these spider robot dudes. And a lot of it's avoiding it, like crouching in grass or whatever. But later on, like they set up environmental puzzles where you have to use Mooey to... I really hope the cat's name is Mooey, and I'm not just saying something random in my head.
What if it's Meowie?
I kind of hope not, because that's lamer.
What if it's Dog?
Okay.
Dog the cat.
Dog the cat.
Dog the not cat.
They set these like environmental things where you, well, I guess one thing we didn't describe, we have Mooey is kind of like you move around, almost like The Last Guardian, but obviously you only have it's 2D.
Right.
Where you point the cat to go do something, like go snip this wire or go do this whatever, and you can tell the cat to stay or come with you, and it stay means certain things, like will activate certain things. Like it seems like there's some connection this cat has with this world that will activate certain things that happen. But you'll send the cat off to go do stuff, and like in the one part that I did, the enemy, I had to avoid him in grass. I had to send the cat underground so it would avoid it, and then set myself up somewhere else before the cat could go cut a thing. And then I had to poke myself out of the grass to get the robot's attention and time it to where it would crush it with a piece of lumber.
Wow.
And that sounds more complicated than it was, really. But it's very, even it wasn't really stressful. It was definitely a puzzle, still. But it's a super chill and gorgeous game that really gave me inside vibes in terms of the satisfaction of playing it. It's definitely not the atmosphere of inside in any way or looks like it, but it's a really good, fun game.
Yeah, because I remember seeing it, and it's very like hand drawn, right? It's a hand drawn.
You're right. I think watercolor is the closest.
Yeah.
It does not.
Yeah.
It's not. I don't think it is watercolor, but it's a very evocative of that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I wish it was possible for me to show you like B-roll with this podcast or something, but you're listening to it. But no, definitely, like I recommend people check out the trailer. It's just a really cool art style and not something I've seen a ton of in the game space, so definitely stuck out to me.
Yeah, and that's Planet of Lana, because you did actually see a game that does look more like Inside, artistically speaking. One Last Breath?
Yes, so I demoed that just this morning, so it's pretty fresh in my head. One Last Breath, if you're familiar with the video game Inside, it is very similar to that in tone and style. It is this, you could call it post-apocalyptic, but basically like humanity has moved on. Nature in a way has kind of taken over, but there's still like pollution. There are like power plants in the background and stuff like that. And the idea is, when I was talking with the developer this morning and asking questions, and he mentioned, you're playing as a personification of nature itself, and the idea is you're trying to bring nature back and help it recover through the course of the game. There are some really, like, almost Lovecraftian enemies that are just, like, horrifying and will run after you, and there's no way to fight. You just have to run away. And one of the big things I asked was, like, what's up with the enemies? What's going on? Like, what's up with this world? And the developer straight up told me, like, our goal is we want the player, when they finish the game, to have more questions than answers. So there's a lot of lore. As you play the game, you're going to find out about, you're going to find out more things, but there's definitely going to be questions, and there are multiple endings. So if you want to get really deep into it and explore and search for all these hidden areas, you can unlock the true ending of the game.
I got to play that too, and the computer that I was on was attached to the big TV that shows everyone outside what you're doing. And the entire time I'm playing, I'm like trying to figure out this puzzle, and all I could think of is, I need to solve this. I look like an idiot. I need to solve this. Oh, the puzzles are not... the ones in the demo weren't super hard, but there's one that... It's just... A lot of the puzzle mechanic is you can go to these special interact points and cause vines to grow or shrink, which, opens doors, raises platforms, stuff like that. And it was a simple puzzle. It's just like raising and lowering as needed, moving a box around. But boy, did I feel like an idiot. And a bunch of people got to see me being an idiot.
And we see that every day.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was kind of worried the devs were going to like stop me playing. Be like, all right, you need to stop now. You're making our game look bad.
You felt like an average Twitch streamer moment.
Oh, yeah. Average Twitch streamer moment.
Yeah, all eyes on you.
I really don't like demoing like puzzle games, especially on a show floor with people watching, because it just shows how inept I can be at times. And sometimes the solutions are so obvious. What part of these puzzles you could move like a box or a crate to help reach other areas, which I think works for this game, but I'm just going to say, you know, as a mechanic, I don't love moving boxes to like reach higher areas. Like, I feel like we've reached a point in game technology, we should have like more interesting puzzles than move this box to this place and then use it to reach that platform.
What if instead of a box, it's like a dumpster?
That would be a little bit better and would like fit into the environment, okay? But I feel like there's so many different, you know, we don't necessarily need to reinvent the wheel or reinvent the box, but it's like there's so many puzzle games that you can take really cool, interesting like inspiration from. This game, I'm more forgiving of it just based on the nature. But in a game like Horizon Forbidden West, where there are entire areas that are based around like moving crates to like reach different platforms, it's unnecessary and I don't like it.
You're saying that developers need to think outside the box?
That is the correct. But no, I enjoyed this game. It was super charming, and I really enjoyed my time talking with the dev as well. And they're putting a lot of care into this game. And something important to mention: it's all about nature helping Earth recover. And they said for every I believe platinum trophy they're getting, the studio is planting a tree in real life. And I believe he mentioned something. It may have been related to like wish lists on Steam, like the number of wish lists they get. They are also planting trees, so it's they're really focused on their impact because they are you're going to have some pollution just in developing a game with electricity and everything. They're doing what they can to be kind of like a net neutral in terms of the environment, so they're trying to help rebuild some of the forests and stuff. So
I think that's
I thought that was cool.
Speaking of environmental, have any of you guys passed Terra Nil's booth and picked up one of their cards?
No.
Their cards are biodegradable with seeds in them, so if you you can throw it in the ground, put some water on it, and you'll get plants. Which fits with the theme of the game, along with One Last Breath. But it's really cool.
So you're telling me One Last Breath is maybe the first time in over a decade where achievements actually matter.
No. Achievements never matter.
No, or is it that, they matter. Are you like a garbage human being if you're not getting the platinum? Are they going to guilt you into it? Like, you put all this time into it, and you're affecting the environment just by playing it, using power to do it, and you're not going to get the platinum thing, so the trees get planted.
Is it going to be a really hard platinum? I don't want to put that much effort into it.
So Sam is okay with being a piece of shit human being because he doesn't want to put the effort in.
Well, that's why I'm wearing my I'm a piece of shit human being shirt.
You got a lot of shirts on.
Yeah, it's kind of cumbersome.
Well, with all of these insults, it feels like we're in a wrestling ring. Because we also checked out
so clever
WrestleQuest.
We need to put some grease on that.
That Segway.
Yeah.
Well, we did see WrestleQuest, which is a JRPG about wrestling.
Yeah, and it was very fun.
Amazing. Yeah. They had the one of the voice actors was out there cosplaying as Macho Man Randy Savage himself.
And it's not like they're making fake names of actual wrestlers. No, they're using their actual images and names and called like all their like catchphrases and everything. It's all in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the story revolves around a kid named. He's the best. His name is Randy Santos. He wants to become.
He's going to become the Muchacho Man.
The Muchacho Man. He's going to become the Muchacho Man, and he still firmly believes that wrestling is real. Yeah. And a lot of the dialogue is like he talks to a fellow wrestler and he's like, I just got to get this gimmick right so the writers will like me. And Muchacho Man is like, writers? What are you talking about? Well, this poor delusional guy.
Yeah, the other guy leaves. What an idiot.
Yeah, what an idiot. Yeah, and I think you put it well. He's like the anti-Deadpool.
Yeah, he's the complete opposite of Deadpool, just unfucking aware of anything.
So it leads to some amazing dialogue. But there's other things, like I think there's this one bad guy named Stone Age, And
Maybe.
yeah, and there's just a line, that's the bottom line because Stone Age said so. So if you're a fan of wrestling, especially like an Attitude Era and a little before that, like this
has a lot of genuine like JRPG like mechanics. Like it's got a pretty, it seemed like involved turn-based mechanic of combat where you're involved, where you're having to time some stuff. There's a hype meter where you're always fighting in front of a crowd, and so you have to win the crowd over. And if you do certain things, like you do the same move over and over again, the crowd's like, this is boring.
Right. And the dev mentioned that's like their way of getting around, like, because in some JRPGs, especially old school ones, it can be like you're just hitting the same spells.
Thing,
so they want to get around that. So it's like, sure, you could strike, but then you can just taunt, which literally does nothing except for like hype up the crowd.
Hypes up the media. Like you go up and taunt and walk back, and then they just go.
And then there's gimmicks, which are your spells.
Yeah,
and that's also how you pin. Yeah, that's right. You don't have to get them to 0. You pin the enemy.
That's right.
Yeah, with a QTE event.
Damage them enough, and then you pin them. And if you fail, they hop back up with some health.
But then the next time you pin them, it's easier to keep them down, just like in a real wrestling match.
And they have like wrestling moves as your spells that are actually really coolly animated. And the other thing we didn't mention, it takes place in like a toy world where you're a toy figure of the wrestler. And like Randy, Macho Man Randy Savage is in as a character, and Jake the Snake,
Snake Roberts.
Does it have
some others? I can't remember.
DiBiase, maybe, I forget.
Maybe
I only know a few wrestlers, but does it have like Dwayne Johnson or The Rock
this
or
is
the
earlier
Scorpion
area.
King?
Dwayne Johnson is The Rock, by the way.
Yeah.
What?
You said, does it have Dwayne Johnson or The Rock? They're the same.
Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, Scorpion King, Hobbs,
Right.
the guy from Doom. Yeah, they're all different people.
The Jungle Book guy, not Jungle Cruise guy.
Jungle Cruise,
the Jungle Cruise
Jumanji,
guy. Yeah. Does it have any of those guys?
Nope.
I don't think so.
That's
But no, this
true.
is from a different era of wrestling.
This
Does,
is like
does
the
it
era
have
before.
Hulk Hogan?
No. I don't think they.
I don't think they'd allowed him in.
Assume they would not
Assume
put
he's
in
not
Hulk
in there.
Hogan.
Yeah.
Just gonna guess.
Randy's the Macho Man Randy Savage seems to be by far the biggest figure.
Does it have Bonesaw?
No. I think, what did the devs say? There would be 11 party members to choose from?
Something like that. Yeah, and they said there'd be like tag teams and triple team moves and stuff like that. So it's like he was obviously super into wrestling, and wrestling fans will like it, and I think even non-wrestling fans will like it because it's genuinely funny even outside of it. Like I know who Randy Savage is, I know some of the big name wrestlers and the basics of what they are. But it was funny without knowing all the references.
Oh, and before a boss fight, you cut a promo.
Oh, that's right. You have to cut a promo where
you diss each other, and whoever disses the other the best starts with more bonus hype.
Yeah. So you insult each other.
Do you have, can you pick your walkout music? Is that a thing?
He didn't mention it.
Yeah.
But I honestly wouldn't be surprised.
Will there be a bunch of weirdo fans holding up signs saying, put Waluigi in Smash?
No, that would be good, though.
In real life, yes.
There should be like an internet feature where people can make their own signs and share it, and they'll just like show up in the crowd.
That would be pretty good.
That'd be fun.
That would be fun. There are some good reasons not to do
a
that.
lot of
They'd be
dicks.
curated. They'd be picked.
But yeah, WrestleQuest.
WrestleQuest was one of the bigger surprises, I think.
Yeah. It's just
show.
so charming, so funny.
It was pretty good.
Yeah. Austin, you saw System Shock, but not the old System Shock, but the new System Shock.
But also the old one.
But also the old one, because it's actually a remake of
Old but new.
the old one.
Mm-hmm.
But it's new.
But it's new. Yeah, System Shock was pretty cool. I went into it knowing that it was probably going to be pretty solid because it's a very well-received series. It's just that System Shock 1 is extremely archaic and old, and that made it really hard for people to get into. But with this remake, the visuals are done from the ground up. It's a remake, not a remaster. Mm-hmm. And, the environment is absolutely beautiful in a creepy way because it's a creepy spaceship that you're in. And also, what I really like is that the original game was also kind of hard to, grasp the controls. Very convoluted controls from what I've seen. But I was able to grasp them really quickly with the way that they had it in this. So, if you're looking to experience one of the first immersive sims ever made, games like Dishonored, Deus Ex, stuff like that.
Yeah,
Thief. Then I think there's probably no better way to do it. And on top of that, it just seems like a really solid game.
Well, it's an immersive sim because, and I got a chance to play it too, because at the start of the game, you're in an apartment and you can flush the toilet. And that means it's an immersive sim.
That's like where I live.
Yeah, exactly. It was immersive. So, in the first cutscene in the game, the main character flips off a bad guy. And of course, it's in first person, so you get to like flip off first person. And the dev was standing next to me when that happened, and he was like, haha, that's my favorite part.
He did that to me too. But you know what? It was cool.
It was cool. It was funny. But every time we talked about the game, he would somehow tie in that flipping the guy off was his favorite part.
Oh my god.
And he must have mentioned it like 5 times. And now all I can think of is flipping the dude off.
That was my favorite part of what I did yesterday.
Flipping the dude off?
No, I saw
Flipping
you guys
me off?
just flipped you guys off.
Oh yeah, that was pretty.
Wow.
You were just reenacting the system.
Yeah, I didn't even know I was.
Yeah. But flipping off aside, System Shock was cool. It was hard. I managed not to die, but I came close to dying a lot. The enemies were probably professional Overwatch players or something.
Right.
I am happy at one point, I turned a corner and there was just a giant robot with a laser there, and I was like, I appear to not be wanted in here. I should go anywhere else, and had to run away from this just completely out of the blue. Some people don't even see the giant robot because it's just, it's a thing I stumbled across, because there's a map, but there's no, you have a goal, and then you kind of get to figure out how you want to do it, because it's an immersive sim. That's how they work. And I got chased by a giant robot.
Nice. But what about in the game?
Well, in the game, I got to kill a zombie with a wrench, and Shodan yelled at me a lot.
Nice.
And Shodan does the glitchy voice thing, because that's where, as far as I'm aware, that's where the glitchy voice thing comes from. Feels like every robot since Shodan has had glitchy voice.
Right. Well, I'm curious, because, we just had, that Last of Us remake come out last week. Do you guys feel yes, it looks from the ground up revamped, but from a gameplay perspective, does it feel old, or does it
no
feel...
it's the Resident Evil 2 remake. It's modernized while still staying true to its roots.
Again, if you've even seen the AI in the original game, or not AI but UI, it's night and day different, much to its benefit, just because this game was made in 94, really fucking old. People they didn't have the capability to make it streamlined, but now it is.
Have any of y'all played System Shock 2?
Yes.
Have you beaten it?
No.
Okay. Well, I'm going to spoil it for you, so you're going to have to survive.
Well, you're going to spoil for everybody else too.
Yeah, they'll all survive.
This really old game.
I want everyone listening to this to stop and go search the System Shock 2 ending real quick.
Okay.
Where they've had this game where Shodan's she's waxing philosophy the whole time. There's creepy mutants, everything. It's clearly a horror game. And the ending is she makes this big proposal to the player, and it's you can join me, you can do whatever, I can make you a god. And he literally goes, he's never spoken the entire game, and he goes, nah, and shoots her. And that's how the game just ends. Nice. And I am dead serious. That is the actual ending. And I'm still trying to figure out why that happened. And when the developer kept mentioning the flipping off thing, I brought up that ending, and he started laughing, and he wouldn't tell me anything about it. So I really need to know, why did that happen?
Well, question, when he said nah, did he also flip off Shodan?
Should have.
The original System Shock 2 was 97. They probably didn't have flipping off technology back then.
Yeah, but flipping off didn't start until 2002 or so.
Yeah, it was System Shock 2 was before you started flipping people off.
Right, exactly.
Flipping off is in a post 9/11 world.
Yeah.
Exactly. Post 9/11.
We didn't do it till then.
It's the post.
Technology.
It's the post whatever the apocalypse the Splatoon world is in.
Yes, exactly.
That's the Patriot Act Help Fund.
Splatoon? Flipping things off. Okay. I thought maybe George Bush was just a big Splatoon fan.
Well, I'm not even going to try to segue this. Do you want to talk about Demonschool?
Please, let's talk about Demonschool.
Yeah, Demonschool is a very cool game. It's a Persona meets Into the Breach. Or Persona, maybe not even Persona, more like SMT, maybe a little more, I don't know. That SMT Persona area.
Yeah, the gameplay is very Into the Breach. I think
the combat is very much that.
Yeah, the vibe of it is very Persona SM. Well, it's more Persona than
more
SMT,
Persona than SMT.
But also the head of Easebeard Games, Easebeard,
I believe.
Also threw out names like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Yep.
So take that for what you will. It's very absurd and funny.
It's a little absurd. I didn't quite get JoJo levels.
Oh, Fashionable Goku is in that, right?
Hat Goku, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Hat Goku.
Well, Hat Hair Goku, yeah.
Yeah, but it's the combat is pretty complicated. It was hard to get a grasp on it with very little time with it. It was pretty complicated. If you played Into the Breach, like it's like that, where you're having to be very thoughtful on turns, and everybody has their own ability and in movement.
The developer told me it was easier chess. That is literally the words they used to describe it to me. Easier chess.
It could be. I don't know. I don't think chess is a great way to describe it.
Yeah. Well, because it's like you have 8 action points among your 4 party members, but each time, like you do one action, it's 1 AP. But then if you do a second action with the same character, that's 2 AP. But you just basically you walk into enemies and it does damage to them. It's kind of the basic
for at least the abilities we had access to in this demo.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But I like the vibe. I love the look of it. The pixelated. I can't think of another game that's really close to it. But it's got a great style.
It feels like high definition PS1, like super high def PS1.
In a way,
PS1 Personas, but like with that kind of 3D-ish environments, but the pixel
sometimes 3D environments, yeah, but
sometimes
3D pixel, yeah.
I just really liked where you'd set up all the actions and you'd see all the damage you do, and then you play the turn and you do all that, and it just looks really cool. It's visually exciting.
Yeah.
You set up your turn and then you press begin, and all the actions you'd set up go off at once. It makes it look like an action-y game with it.
Right.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah. I didn't get a chance to play it. I just watched you play through it, but it has this like that kind of cool feeling where you're like, is this the best, most optimal thing? Because once you finish using up all your AP, then you press like Y to say yes. But at any point in time before you hit Y, you can rewind back.
You can work it through a couple times, and that was a hard thing. Like it's a pretty complex system, so when you only have 20 plus minutes with it.
Yeah,
it's hard to engage with it too much, but it was there's a lot there, and I think it would be very satisfying when you get it figured out, a little more dialed in.
Right.
Also, setting up combos and stuff.
I also want to give big props to the dev who was wearing a very big "fuck NFT" shirt. That was great.
That's good. Yeah.
Now I want to support that game. I didn't even see it.
Bright pink shirt with "fuck NFTs" on it.
And wasn't their booth like within eye shot of Metalcore? I feel like Metalcore was nearby. Oh, that's
maybe
good.
I don't know.
That's
wow.
I hope he just walked by in spite.
That's a big NFT.
What other shirts? What other booths were near Gisbeard?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I mean,
who cares?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Next game.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, I think that's kind of the end of like a lot of the games where we have multiple people playing it. So I want to go around. What's a game that is your personal? Like you wanted to bring it up. Maybe none of the rest of us have played it, but you were like, yeah, I want to shout this out. Awesome.
Yeah, I played a pretty cool game called Lunark, Lunark, and I just found it really fascinating because the developer rotoscoped a bunch of like movements and used very minimal amounts of pixels to create very fluid, really cool animation. It's kind of got this like Prince of Persia, old school Prince of Persia 2D vibe to it, exploring and stuff, and it's being developed by a single WayForward employee who's doing his own thing, but then WayForward is publishing it, from what I understand, which is cool. So like they're also supporting their staff member, but yeah, check it out. It's actually pretty unique.
Hell yeah. Dan, what's your one last game?
I checked out a indie game called JellyCar, which is if anyone played either JellyCar 2 or JellyCar 3 back in like 2008 through 2011, I think. They're Flash games. They are basically, I mean, the name is basically what the game is. You are a car made of jelly, and you play through these like platformer levels. I asked if there were anybody in the game who would eat the car because it was made of jelly. I was told no, so don't expect that. But you have these different abilities and power-ups, and you have to get to the end of the level, and sometimes you need to activate an ability to fly up or go through like some gears. The nice thing is you don't really die in the game unless you just fall off the level like completely. But you can get crushed, you can get mashed up. You're just jelly, so you just reform into a gelatinous vehicle once you're done. There are customization options where you can unlock different types of cars, but then you can go in and just kind of like almost like doodle and just like splash color onto your vehicle and make it yours. So that is coming out relatively soon. They don't have a firm release date yet. But when I was talking with the developer Tim, he was putting a lot of love and care into it, and it's a very cool. It's meant to be like a flip book brought to life. So it has like a very hand drawn, like colored pencil art style to it, and it's very charming. And if you enjoyed the originals, I think you'll really like this one. And if you want to check it out, especially if you want to play it on like a mobile platform, it's should be a fun game to hop into. So
now,
there
question:
you go.
What has deeper lore, Splatoon or JellyCar?
So I brought this up with him.
Oh, okay.
Because I said, so I was like, are there any like secrets in each level? And he said, well, every level has a secret exit. And when you get all of the secret exits in a world, and he's looking to make 8 worlds, and each world would be made up of different levels. So there will be a final, like almost like a final boss level that you would unlock if you do that. But there are no, things to pick up or like, BioShock audio tapes that will tell you about how the world became jelly or anything like that. So the lore, not as deep as Splatoon, but I really hope if it does well, they double down on DLC and just upload like a shit ton of backstory to it. So
JellyCar 2, Time to Jam.
Yeah.
Oh
that's my
God, dude.
That's the only reason he asked you to talk about that.
God damn it.
Not even close.
That's like a good setup.
Only reason.
What about you? What's your last game?
I played an interesting game called Tracks of Thought. It was a small game. It reminded me of Night in the Woods, so Sam might find it a little interesting in terms of the vibe and the writing of it. So what you do is you're taking a train ride. I don't know why the character's on the train, and over the course of it, you're interacting with the other passengers and other stuff on the train. And while you're interacting and making choices and dialogue choices, apparently the game is basically taking a personality quiz of you, and it will then gear certain options that you have and dialogue that you have and interactions that you have based on that personality. And at some point, you get paired up at the end of it with somebody a character who is made to, I can't remember if it was to clash with that personality on purpose. I'm pretty sure it is, because it starts with the battle, quote unquote, turn-based battle, where it's based on these cards where you're trying to come to a consensus on an argument because you're arguing over something. And you both have health bars, and neither of you can go down because you can't. The point is not to win the argument; it's to come to a compromise. And I just thought it was a really interesting idea for a game. And apparently, you pair up with that person after a certain amount of time. It decides your personality or close to it based on your decisions. And there's some mystery to be solved. Some mystery to be solved on this train, and that's who you work with. So apparently, you can.
That sounds really
change
bad.
It can be quite different depending on who you're going on the rest of this train adventure with.
Speaking of Night in the Woods, by the way, I've continued my tradition of every convention I go to with you of trying to get a Night in the Woods shirt and them being sold out. And once again, I tried to get a Night in the Woods shirt and they've been sold out. So, a little upset about that.
And that was a train Tracks
of Thought.
Tracks of Thought. Okay. And just for clarity, I don't know if this is going to pick up. There were some very frightening dog noises outside, and that's what Sam was commenting on with the "this sounds bad," not The game.
No, the game sounds good.
Yeah.
The game actually sounds really
It's
interesting.
a very interesting bunch of interesting ideas. I'd be very curious to see where it goes.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought the dog sounds were being picked up by that, by the faces we were making, so...
Yeah, I hope so. Well, I don't hope so, but for context. But yeah, Tracks of Thought sounds cool. It sounds like a very difficult game, because compromise is the
That's right,
the
compromise
answer.
is difficult.
Yes. Sam, what's your one last game?
Legally, I have to mention Sucker for Love, A Date to Die For, a game that we announced. Hi, I work for Dread XP, I'm Sam.
Yeah, we Dread XP, now we TechRaptor.
We Dread XP. A game that we announced. Nobody on the show floor has played it because it's not playable yet. None of you can play it. And I just want to say that I tried very hard to get the game called To Suck to Love, but nobody would do that. So, Sucker for Love, A Date to Die For. There you go. There's my marketing whatever. The real game I want to bring up was Dungeons of Aether, which I hope I'm pronouncing correctly, but whatever.
Aether.
Yeah, Aether. It's going to be Aether, and if it's wrong,
Yeah.
But it's a roguelike, rogy-wogy.
You landed on
There we go. I had to get the. I was wearing my rogy wogy shirt, and I had to remind myself. It's a you're exploring these dungeons, and there's turn-based combat, but the whole thing is that before every turn, there's a dice roll, and there's 7 dice that roll, and they all have different numbers on them, and you can pick which dice you like and add them to your stats. So if you pick a 5 and put it on your attack, it adds 5 to your attack. But every dice you pick, the enemy gets to pick a dice too. And all the attacks in the game only do 1 damage, but the idea is that you need your attack higher than their defense, and then there's also accuracy, which gives you access to more skills, and speed, which determines who goes first. And it was neat, because sometimes it was useful to go second, because one of the abilities I had was called React, which if you go second, it gives you basically a counterattack, which if your defense is high enough, means you could basically negate their attack and then immediately counterattack. So it was a fun little strategic thing. It's set in the same world as popular Smash clone Rivals of Aether. And the dating sim they are both spun off of Lovers of Aether, as we all know.
Of course, yeah.
Yes.
But it was cool. I enjoyed it, and it's a game I'd like to see more of because I could use another chill roguelike. I don't want a roguelike, rogy wogy.
There we go.
That I don't want to think too hard about, and that's always fun. And also, Sucker for Love, A Date to Die For. Please buy that game when it comes out. Right. This is the marketing pitch. I'm making finger guns at you.
I can't wait for the sequel, Suck 3.
Yeah, we're still trying to pick a good title for the third game. There is going to be a third game. I can say that because we announced it as a trilogy.
Nice.
So
nice.
there will be a third game. I don't know the title for it, but we're if you have a good Sucker for Love 3 pun, send it to me and I will. It can't be worse than the tagline of our second game, which is it's the first game, which is things are about to get wryly weird. But in deep speak.
Well, if you said it in Tokyo, you could do Sucker for Love, Tokyo Kissed.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm allowed to make any more Fast and Furious jokes. I love Fast and Furious. I'm banned for making Fast and Furious jokes.
What if you call it Keep On Sucking, Love is Eternal? Instead of Keep On Trucking.
That's a good one too.
If you could pass it on to your boss.
I'm going to get in so much trouble. They're going to listen to this and be like, Sam, what the fuck?
I don't know. That's fine.
I am open to any more Sucker for Love 3 puns.
Of course, yeah. I want to shout out Superfuse. I saw that at the Raw Fury booth as well, not the Raw Furry booth. It's Diablo-like, Path of Exile-like, action RPG, like isometric, click here, QWER does your skills, and right click is also a skill. It's a lot like those sorts of games, but the thing that I think really, that I hooked onto is I really like Path of Exile's skill setup. Because you have your skills where you can amplify them and modify them in ways, and Superfuse is the same way. So an example is I played a sorceress type. It's Diablo in space, so they're called elementalists, but basically magic, right? And you can just create a wall of fire. It does damage over time for any enemy that steps in the wall of fire. Pretty straightforward spell. But then you can modify it. So I, at the end, had it mirror. So I set up 2 walls of fire, one in front, one behind. And then I made it wider. And then I made them cascade so they both like kept moving forward away from me. And that's just one like permutation of what you can do with that skill. So every character can presumably be like their own crazy, like you may have the same set of skills at the start, but how I build them and how Andrew would build them would be totally different possibly, because you can just make these skills do crazy things, and that's just exciting and fun to see all the colors go wild on the screen, and it just seems like one of those games that could be really good for that. Yeah.
Awesome.
So, yeah, that's Superfuse, and I think that is our show for this week. So we hope you enjoyed. Thank you. If you've gotten to this point, thank you for putting up with the audio quality. No, it's not, again, not what we usually do, but we make do with what we have. If you did enjoy, please feel free to leave us a review or let a friend know. Share our fun little PAX, stories and games with them, and let us know down below if any of these games were the most exciting for you. Which one were they? Let us know. We will be back next Monday with another podcast, so we will see you then.
Bye.
See ya.
And since Stretch isn't here, at least some of these games are coming to Game Pass.
Oh,
can we say that? Do we?
Are we?
High on Life is coming to Game Pass.
And Lies of P, right? So yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
I'm sure. I think like all of Raw Fury's games come to Game Pass.
Maybe.
Or is that Humble?
Who knows?
Eventually, everything will just become
Listen.
Game Pass.
It's all
But
good.
how many? I don't care about Game Pass. How many of the games are coming to PlayStation Plus Essential Extra Premium?
Bye.